Our submission is quite substantial. It's approximately 150 pages and contains hundreds of pages of exhibits. With that submission, we are also submitting a cover letter to the Attorney General that is requesting a number of things, and that's what I want to talk about today. First of all, the application must be considered by a truly independent reviewer. And that is what was required when Governor Cuomo on March 1st of 2021 made his referral to the Attorney General. It is our position that the Attorney General cannot be the person to consider our application to amend, correct, and supplement the report, because the governor's March 1st, 2021 referral was not for the Attorney General to oversee an investigation, conduct an investigation, or to be involved in any of the investigation of allegations against the governor. The August 3rd report, as I have said, and I've made presentations on this, and it will be reflected in the 150-page submission, is materially misleading. It is flawed and it's unreliable. It has to be amended, corrected, and supplemented for a number of reasons. First and foremost of which, it misled the public. But in addition, that report is being relied upon as we sit here today by the New York State Assembly Judiciary Committee, by Jay Cope, and potentially going forward, it could be relied upon in civil lawsuits that some of the plaintiffs' lawyers have said that they plan to file. Because of the glaring deficiencies and flaws in that report, which extraordinarily prejudiced the governor, ousted him from office, overturned an election, and disenfranchised the votes of 3.6 million New Yorkers, it has to be corrected. And I want to talk about now the cover letter that we are sending to the Attorney General and what the referral required back in March of 2021. When the allegations about sexual harassment first arose against the governor issued a referral letter. That referral letter to the Attorney General's office says that all the Attorney General was authorized to do under Section 63A of the Executive Law was to select an independent law firm to conduct the inquiry into these allegations. That was it. The inquiry was to be entirely independent, and the Attorney General was not to be personally involved beyond selecting that independent law firm and receiving weekly status reports as is provided for under the statute. The reason that the referral was framed in this specific way was because back in March of 2021, Governor Cuomo had made clear he was going to run for a fourth term. That was clear as early as March 19th. And at the same time that this referral happened, the Attorney General would not disavow any intention she had to run for governor in 2022. And because of that conflict, which was a political conflict, the governor did not want the Attorney General's office to conduct or oversee the investigation. And that is something that was part of specific discussions between the governor and the Attorney General before that referral letter was drafted. And the language of that referral letter was drafted precisely to limit the involvement of the Attorney General and her office. It was for an independent law firm to conduct an independent inquiry. Recent comments by the Attorney General in the last several weeks, as she has been exploring a run for governor, indicate that she violated the terms of that referral. At a September 30th, 2021 Ulster County Democratic dinner, she admitted that she was personally involved in the investigation. Here's what she said, as was reported in numerous press outlets, including the New York Post. She said, quote, "When they came into my office and told me about the fact that Albany was toxic, how they were harassed, I believed them because they were specific. They gave me concrete examples. And everyone in Albany, every politician that I knew said, yeah, it was like that, Tish. These young women who marched in gave me the facts, gave me the evidence." Those comments demonstrate that the Attorney General did not abide by the terms of the referral, which was meant to limit her involvement because she would not disavow an intent to run for governor in 2022 against Governor Cuomo, who had already made clear he planned to run. It is clear that she did not hand the reins of the investigation totally over an independent law firm. That referral from the governor did not confer jurisdiction on the Attorney General to supervise or participate in the investigation other than to select the law firm and to receive weekly reports. It did not confer jurisdiction on the Attorney General to make evidentiary or credibility determinations. After the report came out on August 3rd of 2021, it was the Attorney General who held the press conference to announce the report. And when we raised, over the course of the next 2 weeks, in presentations that I gave on August 6th, August 10th, and then again on August 20th, the Attorney General, in response to our legitimate concerns, her office issued a statement. And in the statement, her office stated that the governor, quote, himself requested that Attorney General James oversee an independent investigation. That was a press release issued by the Attorney General. She said that on August 20th, and you can also see that she had said it on August 6th of 2021. Well, that wasn't true. The referral never had language that Governor Cuomo had requested that she oversee the investigation. In fact, it was quite to the contrary because of the obvious political conflict that existed in March of 2021. After we have had an opportunity to review the Attorney General's report, after we reviewed carefully the Attorney General's statements at her press conference announcing this report, it became very clear to us that despite the Attorney General's comments that the investigation was, quote, exhaustive, thorough, and without outside influence, period, as was claimed by the office. And we know that it was not because by the Attorney General's own comments on September 30th, she was involved. She was discussing with Albany politicians the case. Albany politicians were telling her, yeah, that's what it was like. The Attorney General, because of her plans to explore a run for governor, plans that over the last several weeks she's made very, very clear at different events, she had a motive to draw every possible inference against the governor, who was a political rival and who planned to run for a fourth term. This investigation and report, which was supposed to be entirely and truly independent, done by independent reviewers, the Attorney General made her own by putting her name on the cover page of the report and by announcing the report. I want to show you just the cover page of the report of the August 3rd investigation. If you look at the cover page of the report of that investigation, okay, it is announced at the top, State of New York, Office of the Attorney General, Tish James is at the top. And then the investigators she appointed are at the bottom. That is in stark contrast to another report done 11 years ago by former Chief Judge Judith Kaye. This is the cover of the report that she issued. Judith Kaye at that time was no longer the Chief Judge on the Court of Appeals. She was working at Skadden Arps. Governor Cuomo was the Attorney General. Governor Cuomo felt that an investigation into David Patterson, in which the governor, or the Attorney General Cuomo at the time, had not disavowed his own intention to run, called for someone truly independent, a person of incredible integrity, and whose judgment has been known as unimpeachable. And that was Judith Kaye, to come in and act as an independent counsel. Governor Cuomo, or Attorney General Cuomo at the time, did not claim the report as his own. The second issue with the manner in which the March 1st referral was not followed by the Attorney General, and I've raised this report before, and I will, keep beating the drum on this issue, because what happened to the governor was not fair, it was not right, and it was biased. But Attorney General James chose to choose investigators that were not going to be independent, that were going to come into this with bias and predispositions against the governor and against the chamber. First, she appointed a plaintiff's attorney who has a practice representing women suing employers for sexual harassment and discrimination. And what's very notable about that appointment is that at the time that Governor Cuomo was having conversations with Tish James about the referral and the language, Tish James specifically told the governor that she would not appoint a plaintiff's lawyer, precisely because of the lens and the bias through which they would view these allegations, which needed to be independently reviewed, not just focused on building a case against the governor, but looking at the evidence, looking at the complainants, letting this all play out, not building a case, actually getting at the truth and seeing what happened. The second attorney that the Attorney General appointed was an attorney who had a long history of investigating Governor Cuomo and the executive chamber while he had been at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and in fact had personally interviewed the governor as part of that investigation. Those appointments were not by mistake. The appointments were done to bring in people that had a particular bent, a bias about the subject matter, the governor, and the executive chamber. And the resulting report, as you will see from our 150-page submission, bears that out when you look at what evidence was included, what wasn't included, new information that we have uncovered that should have been included. So we are asking the Attorney General to appoint an independent reviewer, which is what was required by the March 1st referral letter from the governor, to consider the Attorney General's report and also to fairly consider our application to amend and supplement that report. The second thing that we are asking the Attorney General to do today is that she should terminate her pending criminal investigation of Governor Cuomo and his staff. What that pending criminal investigation is that on April 13th of 2021, the state comptroller, Tom DiNapoli, sent a referral letter to Tish James asking her to investigate any misuse of state resources that could be criminal violations. Okay, and let me start with this. There were no criminal violations, and we're confident that any investigation that's fair will bear this out. But putting that to the side, at the time that this referral was made on April 13th of 2021, the comptroller himself was contemplating a possible run for governor. Our cover letter points to the press article, and I encourage you to read the cover letter. So the comptroller was considering a run for governor. The Attorney General herself was not disavowing that she might run for governor. And the sitting governor had already made clear he planned to run for a 4th term. That referral had politics written all over it. That investigation is still open. And the Attorney General cannot credibly continue to lead that pending investigation, given that she is exploring a run for governor. She needs to either terminate that investigation or recuse her office and refer the matter to a local district attorney. The last ask that I have in the cover letter to the Attorney General is for her to live up to her promise. The promise she made on August 3rd of 2021 at her press conference. She said that she would make the evidence underlying the report available to the public. She hasn't done that. The Attorney General's office has not responded to my written requests for all the evidentiary materials underlying the report. And the fact that we don't have access to the evidence, underlying that report, that completely handicaps our ability to respond or defend against it, handicaps our ability to make any meaningful submission to the Assembly Judiciary Committee with the report the Assembly Judiciary Committee is writing now. That is supposed to include addressing the sexual misconduct allegations or harassment allegations. And what we also don't know, because the Assembly won't tell us, is what evidence that the Attorney General has provided to the Assembly. Has the Attorney General given the Assembly all of the unredacted interview memos, transcripts, all of the evidence, or some of the evidence? And certainly if the Assembly's getting that, we should be able to get this. So with the application we're submitting today to correct, amend, and supplement the report, we have told the Attorney General and hopefully the independent reviewer that's going to review our submission that we have the right to supplement it. What happened here was wrong. And the reason I sent the letter to the Attorney General today, and the reason that I am making this submission on behalf of former Governor Cuomo, is because process is everything that our country is based upon. You cannot run out, drop a report accusing someone, anyone, of all types of misconduct, and then disavow any legal responsibility to have to defend it in any legal forum. What the Attorney General did here was trust me and trust my report. I'm not going to show you the evidence, even though you said you would, and now we're 2 months later and you haven't. And then refuse to answer questions about it or allow the person that you took down to scrutinize that underlying evidence. This is wrong. This needs to be corrected. This needs to be addressed. And no entity can take that report at face value. I plead with every one of you to read our 150-page submission. All that happened over the last 2.5 months, and certainly in the frenzy after the Attorney General announced this report on August 3rd with no notice to the governor, was people just read headlines and assumed the worst of the governor and assumed fairness in the report. And it was over. People didn't read anything. They didn't scrutinize the report. And what we have submitted today, and I might add, what we submitted today was with both hands tied behind our back because it's what we could do because no one will give us access to the evidence. But even without that access, that anyone is entitled to under the rule of law, it is apparent that that report was wrong. It was done in a rushed way, critical evidence that wasn't gathered. And the other thing that you will see, please read the second portion of our submission. I urge you to. When you read the second portion of the submission, it addresses how the investigation was conducted, how complainants were asked questions versus how the governor was asked questions, how the complainants were treated in the interview process versus how the governor was treated in the interview process. It will be enlightening to you. There are also very specific examples that are addressed in our submission with some of the more serious allegations, particularly with respect to allegations by Brittany Camiso. I urge you to read those portions of our submission. What happened here has not been a shining moment of justice. It needs to be made right. Thank you for listening to me today, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Ms. Glavin. If you would like to ask a question, please use the raise hand function at the bottom of your window. We will take a brief moment to compile the Q&A roster. Ms. Glavin, your first question comes from Michael Gormley of Newsday. Michael Gormley, please unmute your microphone.
Good afternoon. Attorney, were you able to contact the independent law firm and find out what their conclusions were or would have been if they were able to provide that press conference instead of the Attorney General?
I'm not sure I understand the question about if I were able to contact the independent law firm. They haven't made any comment, as far as I am aware, the two independent investigators. They've not made any comments publicly since that press conference.
So you don't have a clear idea of if their view would differ from the way the Attorney General has presented this?
I don't. I mean, the one thing I can say is with the presentations that we did on August 6th, 10th, and 20th, it's clear that there are material omissions and errors, and they haven't addressed those.
Thank you.
Ms. Glavin, your next question comes from Jimmy Vielkin from the Wall Street Journal. Jimmy, please unmute your microphone.
Hi, Jimmy. How are you? Jimmy, are you there?
Jimmy.
There we go. Now I can unmute. Hi.
Hi, Jimmy. Are you in upstate?
Beautiful and sunny day here in glorious upstate America. So three basic questions.
Sure.
One, you said that the inquiry by the Attorney General's office with respect to the awarding of the book contract is ongoing. What details can you provide on that? Second question, has Governor Cuomo testified or been asked to speak to any prosecutors, criminal prosecutors? I understand that in Albany County, investigators have spoken with Brittany Camiso, but I also understand there are inquiries in other counties that are pending. And thirdly, you said it was a conflict for Attorney General James to continue with that investigation into the book because she is exploring or considering a run for governor. Why is that a conflict? And sort of underlying that is, should I understand from your comment that Governor Cuomo is himself considering another run for governor? I'm just trying to
Sure.
understand why that would be a conflict.
Sure. Okay, let me take the first question. With respect to the Attorney General's pending investigation, that investigation is broadly an investigation of misuse of resources, state resources. It is not limited to the production of the governor's book. In fact, in conversations that I've had with the Attorney General's investigators, that investigation, because of the breadth of the referral from Comptroller DiNapoli, can include priority COVID testing. It can include whether or not executive chamber employees, were doing campaign work while on the job. So that is the breadth of it, and the far reaching of it, is certainly bothersome to me. It's a very broad referral to the AG. I do think the focus of it is the book. In terms of the status, I know they're active. I actually had a phone call with the Attorney General's office yesterday about it. So that's the answer to the first question. With respect to the second question on any of the criminal inquiries, you talked about the DA's offices. I don't want to talk about that at this time. And there's a host of reasons why. That I'm I'm a criminal defense lawyer, and I don't want to share whatever contact we may or may not have had with local district attorneys' offices. I will say this: I am very confident that the governor committed no crime, and I expect that those cases will, and hope that they should be declined, once the full facts are brought out. Based on what I know, and again, I don't have access to all the underlying evidence, but take a look at what's in my submission, Jimmy, on some of the more specific allegations, that would be looked at by DA's offices, particularly Brittany Camiso. And what I can tell you is that in my years as a prosecutor, I wouldn't have brought that case, based on the evolving version of events, evolving version of details, and the fundamental lack of corroboration for her story. So that's on the second point. On the third point about the conflict, is the governor planning to run in 2022? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm his lawyer. I'm not his political consultant. You will have to ask him. But then it goes to, well, then if he's not running, what would the conflict be? The obvious conflict would be, for Attorney General James, is that one, if it is in her mind that he might run, and it's no secret what his campaign war chest is, it is entirely inconsistent with the appearance of impartiality and independence for her to be conducting that investigation when the governor hasn't publicly come out and answered the question. Now, his people have said he has no interest in running again, but while the Attorney General is running, and to the extent she in any way, shape, or form considers him to be a political rival, whether it be by him potentially running, or whether it be by, his war chest, being used to give money to other opponents or causes, she certainly, has an appearance of not having a favorable impression of the governor. And I'm going to leave it at that. She should recuse.
Ms. Glavin, your next question comes from Gwen Hogan from WNYC. Gwen, please unmute your microphone.
Hi, thank you very much for taking my question. I just wanted to see if you could clarify, in a number of statements, you've contested kind of specific details in the report. How many women did your client sexually harass if it's not the full 11?
None. Next question.
Ms. Glavin, your next question comes from Brendan Lyons from the Times-Union.
Hello, Brendan.
Please unmute your microphone.
Hello, Brendan. How are you today?
Hi, good afternoon. Doing great.
It's good to talk to you again.
You too. And as you know from what we've reported recently, that the Assembly's investigation had apparently uncovered telephone records, swipe card records, and other evidence that Brittany Commisso had visited the governor's mansion in early December, and that is when they believe, if there was a time when they were alone on the second floor of the mansion, it was that day. Does the governor deny that occurred in early December, that they were setting aside the groping allegations, that he was alone with Ms. Commisso in his office that week, and that she had assisted him with a matter involving his mobile phone?
Yeah, so Brendan, first thing is, I'd encourage you to read my submission. It addresses this precise point on December 7th. The governor was certainly in the mansion that day. Mansion records reflect that Ms. Commisso was also in the mansion that day. And what the submission says is that there was, in fact, a text that was sent from the governor's iPhone to Ms. Benton. Ms. Commisso also alleged that immediately after she sent that text, she used the governor's iPhone to call Ms. Benton. The governor's iPhone records do not reflect any such call to Ms. Benton as Ms. Commisso has described. Now, putting all this to the side, he didn't grope Ms. Commisso on that day or on any other day. And what we talk about in our submission, and it's important, and particularly for you, Brendan, and the Times-Union, because you have interviewed Ms. Commisso extensively. You interviewed her in March and April earlier this year when she wanted to be anonymous. You did a fulsome article on April 7th about what Ms. Commisso had to say about her interactions with the governor. What Ms. Commisso said about her interactions with the governor when she claimed that he groped her breast do not match up with what she told Executive Assistants number 2 and 3 on March 6th and March 7th, and that they reported to the special counsel and counsel to the governor. So I urge you to look at what we put in our submission about that. Second point I want to make, you were the first reporter to come out and say that this happened on a weekday in late November. Ms. Commisso told you that, okay? And she had always been consistent based on your own reporting that this happened in November. So she told you it happened in late November. And then the Attorney General's investigators do their report. And after speaking with her on more than one occasion, the Attorney General's office pinpointed the date as November 16th because Ms. Commisso had told them it happened around the time she was tasked with photographing a particular document. And that document was dated November 16th. I'm guessing, Mr. Lyons, that is a detail that was not included in her fulsome interview with you, the Times-Union, that was published on April 7th. After the Attorney General's report came out, and Ms. Commisso had always been consistent that this happened in November. After the Attorney General's report came out, and we pointed out that there's no way it happened on November 16th in the way that she had described to you, Mr. Lyons, during your interviews, you then published another article with Ms. Commisso on August 9th and said that now she thought it happened around November 25th. We then pointed out the only day that Ms. Commisso was at the governor's mansion in November was November 16th. After this, her attorney is now saying, well, she thinks it was November, December, and we've now moved the date to December. This is what I'm going to say about this. Ms. Commisso first reported these allegations the first week of March. That would have been 4 to 5 months when what would have been a rather traumatic experience happened. I simply find it difficult to believe that given November had Thanksgiving, December had Christmas, that Ms. Commisso, assuming that this traumatic event happened, and it did not, would be able to remember if she had only been in the mansion once in December and once in November when this happened. And I'd also add that before November and December, I think mansion records reflect she was there a bunch of times doing work with the governor. So the phone records that you're citing to, they mean absolutely nothing. There is not, and there never has been, corroboration for Ms. Camiso's claim. One more question.
Ms. Glavin, your final question comes from Bernadette Hogan from the New York Post. Bernadette, please unmute your microphone.
Hi,
Hi,
Rita,
Ms.
can you hear
Hogan,
me?
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
Can you hear me
good.
okay? Great.
Yes,
So
I
two-
can.
So two questions. Back to Jimmy's question about whether or not the former governor is going to run again. Why is this press conference being live streamed from his campaign account or his campaign website? That's number one. And number two, where in the referral that the Attorney General received from Beth Garvey back on March 1st, 2021, where does it say that the Attorney General is excluded from participating in this investigation and that it would be problematic for her to be involved with these interviews, et cetera? Because I'm looking at Executive Law 63, and there's nowhere in the language that says she would not be permitted, or just the Attorney General in general would be excluded from participating in this.
Okay. On your first point, again, I can't speak to whether the governor is running. In terms of whether or not this is being live streamed through the campaign, I'm the wrong person to ask procedurally on this, but what I can say is that this relates to allegations made against the governor while he was governor of the state, relating to his official duties and how he worked with employees. And I think it's perfectly permissible for his campaign, to spend money for him to get the message out. This is about, when you ask about why now, this is about getting to the truth. This is about the law, and this is about what's right and process. I cannot stay quiet given what I have learned and given what's in that 150-page submission, when what I saw happen to the governor, what I'm aware of questions that were asked and that weren't asked, witnesses that were and were not interviewed, records that were and were not collected. This man's reputation was destroyed on August 3rd at one of the most prejudicial and unprecedented press conferences I have ever seen in my career. And I have seen lots of press conferences by prosecutors and public officials. And what happened there was not meant to be independent, it was meant to be an ambush, okay? So that's why I'm here today, because this needs to be addressed. You can't make those allegations and then disavow having to defend them in a forum and then refuse to give the evidence. It's not right, it's not fair, and as a New Yorker, I'm pretty outraged by it, and as a lawyer. On your second point about the referral, it says that the independent law firm is to do the inquiry. That referral was discussed with the governor before it happened. And the governor had made clear to Letitia James, you have a conflict. Your office can't be doing this investigation. She promised an independent investigation. And it is quite implicit when you say the Attorney General is to select an independent law firm to conduct the inquiry, to mean it's not to be the Attorney General's office. It was to be the independent law firm. All right, everybody, thank you. Thank you for your patience, for your time. I look forward to all of you reading the submission and taking some time to reflect about what happened here. And have a good day. Thank you.